I'm honored to introduce Jeremy, the CTO of GitGuardian. Please.
Thank you. Let me just get set up because I have to plug a few things in. That was a bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. It's very nice to be with you all today. I will give you a little warning that I'm probably not as good at presenting as many of the other presenters because I spend most of my time working with engineers building the products rather than standing on the stage. But I'm very happy to be here today to talk about some of the things that we're seeing. I wanted to echo Ian from Andromeda in saying that I think a lot of the talks have had quite a strong recurring theme about agents and agentic AI and the explosion that's happening right now. But I'll try and talk about it from our perspective with the facets that we see as a vendor working in this space. There it goes, clicker. Yeah. So I think that this is something that everybody's been saying, is that the multiplication of NHAIs is just exploding exponentially. What I think the last couple of the presenters have talked about 144 NHIs for every human. I think like 6 months ago, people were saying 82, 85. I heard other quotes like that. So it's kind of crazy to see that just going up. And I actually think that if you counted it now, since the last 2 months, it might actually be even higher than that because of how agentic AI is exploding. Also, from GitGuardian's perspective, so we are one of the vendors that's been working in this space for quite a long time. And we've actually been, one of the first things we started doing was actually just finding secrets that leak, NHIs that leak. And so if you think that there's more NHIs, then the number of secrets that are leaking is also exploding. And as I said, I think it's only accelerating. I don't know how many of you have tried OpenClaw. I hope you've been really careful. I watched a talk recently of a CTO of Atlassian, and he installed OpenClaw. And it was actually interesting because he said, IT wouldn't let me run it on my laptop, so I bought a Mac Mini to do it. And it's terrifying. People are doing that in your companies right now. And if the CTO of Atlassian is doing it, for sure that people are doing it, and they're trying to get agents to do their jobs. It's so compelling. It's so compelling. I feel it. So I hope that you do as well. Actually, we're just about to publish, every year we publish a report called The State of Secret Sprawl. Essentially, we scan every public commit to GitHub in real time, and we check for secrets, and then we try and email those people and say, hey, you just leaked a secret into GitHub. Well, this report only talks to the end of 2025. We're just about to publish it now, but we saw an explosion. One of the interesting things is we saw an explosion in the number of new people contributing to GitHub, which is all about the whole wave of people vibe coding as well. We also obviously then saw an explosion in the number of secrets that people are leaking. So I think basically this is just telling the same story from a different angle, in that vibe coding is happening. People are creating agents. Agents are coding for themselves. They're leaking secrets. They're making mistakes. It's terrifying for anyone who is actually got to manage any of this or think about it from a company perspective. And it's great to see CISOs on stage. It's also great to see them saying things like, yeah, well, actually, they're already doing it, and we're just kind of chasing after and having to figure this out. And actually, that's what's happening to everyone. I would say that there's basically a few challenges from our perspective. First of all is generating code. I think it started with developers generating code. Now it's non-developers generating code. And in the last 2 months, it's actually AI agents generating code for themselves. And so the whole thing is going crazy. They're able to deploy everything themselves as well, or people are someone in marketing can just make an app. I have a friend, he has a small tech company, a SaaS company. He told me the person in marketing that I have, she has made 12 apps. And I looked at one of the apps, and she had 1,000 changes that she made because she was just iterating and deploying and making this thing work and do things for our business. That's exciting, and it's also terrifying. And the tools like Zapier, Make, and they've been around for ages, but they're getting more scary too, because they're not just deterministically following a logic path, but they're now calling out to LLMs to actually make decisions as well. And so all of these are just, and whatever comes next in the next month, next week, next new thing, are just creating this huge explosion of NHIs that we're really all of us vendors are struggling to manage. I think there's some numbers. and this is probably echoing similar things that others have said. What we see is that the leaked API keys for the AI vendors like OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek, and all of that are that like the fastest growing things that we detect in the wild as well. So that's even more scary because people get access to API keys that I think one of the panel said that when they land in your environment, they use your environment against you, and that's what. Well, I don't think this is really a timeline. It's just the different phases of a project where you can get compromised. I told you about my friend who had the marketing person making loads of apps. He told me that like a month ago, 2 months ago, and he called me up 2 weeks ago and he said, I have a crisis, a security crisis. Can you help? And basically what had happened was that the app that she was using to generate code exposed an API endpoint, which allowed anyone to use that endpoint to send an email to anyone from their address or from basically with their SendGrid access. Now, the API key wasn't leaked, but the API was exposed. That's to this day one, the architecture. And especially when you have people who don't know anything about security or good architecture, they can look at the code. It doesn't mean anything to them. I mean, the agents are getting better. We're going to put better stuff around them, but it's not changing anything. So then, we see API keys being leaked and checked in. The keys are also in CI/CD pipelines that builds people going into production. We're also seeing supply chain attacks targeting developers or targeting environments. One of the things that we've been able to do, and I can talk about it in a second as well, but because we have a copy of every GitHub public commit, when the Shai-Hulud attack happened, for example, we were able to warn people and say, hey, even though this commit is now deleted, we can tell you that your keys, your developers' keys were in that leak. Many companies didn't even know that their developer was compromised. So these supply chain attacks are getting increasingly sophisticated, targeting people who have secret-rich or NHAI-rich environments. And and like what's interesting about this, I was at an event where the person who runs the AWS kind of security operations center, it's like a global thing. Whenever a customer has an AWS breach or that touches an AWS environment, even if it originates somewhere else, they said 82% of all the hacks where they were involved were from people logging in with valid credentials. So it's not the supply chain attacks. So it's NHIs getting compromised, going sideways into your environment. In a lot of cases, it's someone from a supplier that has access to your system. Their computers compromised, and so on. So I guess it's a big problem. And basically agents violate all of the NHI rules, like don't hard code your secrets, don't give too much access. It's just like so much easier just to give it all the access. And we need like ways, and there's vendors here that are trying to do that to help you scope and do it. But a lot of people are not doing it. Their agents are not doing it as well. And then we're giving out long-lived. The number one thing that I would say, if you can take away one thing from this, is find a way to just reduce the number of long-lived tokens you have. I don't know what else to say, because that's basically where a lot of the compromises are. Earlier in the panel, they said, well, they're probably not, and I think I was one of the people that said you're never going to get rid of them completely. What I would say is try and like have a target, like set 20% reduction in long-lived tokens. Push your vendors. One of the things that we want is to be able to call any vendor and rotate a key or revoke a key. If we find a leaked secret, like OpenAI have an API where we can call if we have the key and we can revoke it. And push your vendors to give you the ability to rotate and to revoke keys. So this is kind of like the different phases of where things are going. I would say like leaks can happen or issues can happen at each of these stages. And actually, given the time, I wanted to really focus on two things that I would highly recommend for you to do. And first of all, on vibe coding, I think accept that it's happening. I think like every organization has to find ways to do this. I'm going to tell you a little funny story. One of our customers, they had an internal hackathon. So all the people were kind of like, and this is for business people, so it's non-technical people. And they have GitGuardian installed. One of the fun things from that was that I think several of the hackathon groups triggered GitGuardian saying, hey, there's a secret checked in with your code. And actually the winning team told the story of like, oh yeah, we didn't know what we were doing, but GitGuardian saved us and like told the security team that we had checked in a credential. So I would say it's the usual security story: strength in depth, all the basics that you do and have done. Governance, it works. You should do it. You should do it. Like, have better tools to do it. It's just real time now that you need to do it. I'll also say, figure out a way to treat every person and every computer as an adversary in your environment. So it's zero trust times 10. Figure out how to do that for agents and give people agents, but just find a way to do sandboxing. It's one of the biggest things. That's the biggest thing I'm trying to figure out. How do I give my engineers agents, like a sandbox environment that they can use? We already use short-lived tokens, but now that those are on a developer machine, how do I do that for agents? And how do I manage that? So figure out a way to do that. And then basically your developers and anyone else who has agents is a honeypot that's everyone is going to try and get. So find a way to scan for secrets on your developers' machines, on every company machine. Try and get all of those secrets vaulted in a vault so that they're never on disk, because the supply chain attacks basically scan your whole machine and they'll just take all the secrets off the machine, stick it into GitHub or somewhere else, and then you're lost. So know what's on the machine, then you can take action as well. You can either, and if secrets in a vault, you can rotate them because they're not accessed and stored and doesn't break anything. And yeah, just if you can, dynamic credential injection. I know that there's some vendors that do that here. Highly recommend doing that. So yeah, just basically, if you're going to do this, start with discovery. I would say, like, scan every developer's laptop, find where all the AI tools are. And that's something that we're going to be doing in the next. We're actually scanning our own developers' machines with our tooling, and we'll be releasing that to customers. We can tell you what agents are on the machines, what MCPs, what access. Then you can start mapping that, tying it back to identities, tying it back to the access. Then once you have the visibility, you can apply policy and all the other things. And that's a lot of what the other folks in the panels are saying as well. But I would say just start knowing what's out there, scan every machine. So thanks.